Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Celts Are Here podcast. We are going to be having a chat about the previous weekend's victory at Rugby Park. Looking forward to Hearts and just a general chat of where we are. There's obviously 2 weeks, I think, if I'm correct in saying, just under 2 weeks to go in the transfer window. We'll be looking at that too. What possible incomings could happen, what possible outgoings could also happen. Quinn, it feels like forever since we last spoke. Obviously, we had a special guest on last week and Liam Maher. If people haven't had the chance to check that out, please do so. It was a right good chat
Great.
with Liam. But yeah, two victories since I think we last spoke. The one up in Dingwall and the Kilmarnock game. Probably that there's been enough covered in the victory in Dingwall to just kind of skip past that. So we'll go right back to Sunday lunchtime at Rugby Park. Difficult conditions, but Celtic absolutely blew Derek McInnes' side away, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a great weekend because I think we all had a decent anticipation that, like Ross County, we've all kind of spoke about that, as you were saying, but it did feel like, the manager's comments after Ross County, or maybe even around Kilmarnock, was like kind of similar to the stuff we were chatting about last. Was like it's almost like an extended pre-season. The manager's still like still putting the squad together through their paces in that respect. So it felt like Kilmarnock, where we're lifting and we were expecting a big result, and it was lots of fun.
Yeah, I think people are kind of maybe saying Celtic's not been properly tested yet. Obviously, I think to counter that, you had Aberdeen who did quite a solid League Cup group stage campaign, won every game. Yeah, the opposition wasn't the best. Ross County obviously in a bit of rebuild after losing players like Hungbo, Regan, Charles Cook and whatnot. But again, that's always a difficult venue to go to. You know, a Malcolm Mackay team's going to frustrate you. And much like, newly promoted Kilmarnock, people would have their doubts about that. But listen, Derek McInnes, a plastic pitch, soaring hot heat. The three of them are difficult fixtures. So, either way you want to look at it, Celtic did well to get through all three games so far.
Yeah, and again, like when we build up towards the game coming, like it's been a nice different series of tests for some of the guys that have just walked in the door, and some of the guys obviously were still developing into the club from last year. Because even though we've not had like the rigorous, round Europe trips this time of year, and like we've seen Rangers with PSG last night, getting tested at a high level, we've definitely not had that yet. So it's nice that at least the tests we've had, have had challenges involved in them, and it hasn't just been a turn up and beat people kind of situation. They have made us fight for it in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, the couple of games has definitely been a battle, and I think that this Hearts game's going to be a bit of a step up and challenge. Obviously they have the Europa League game against the FC Zurich, and I think for the Jambos it might be something to get used to because they're probably not used to Thursday Sunday football. Which either way this Zurich tie goes, we're going to have to do it. So do you possibly think that Hearts is going to be probably the biggest challenge that we've had so far?
I think normally we would definitely expect them to be. Well, I don't know. I suppose Aberdeen in the opening game, maybe on paper, looks harder than Hearts, but where we find Hearts, of course, is in the middle of a double legger with Zurich. So as we've seen with Dundee United, after they got a good result against AZ Alkmaar, the weekend they changed maybe about 4 or 5 spots. Not many of the guys that played the Wednesday get 90 minutes, etc. So, Hearts will play their strongest team at the point of recording tonight, and I don't see them, if they've got the second leg still in their hand, I don't see them really being too concerned if they leave Celtic Park without 3 points. They'll probably be doing their best to keep it respectable. But so it's a weird one by Hearts, because even if they play they play full strength, let's say tonight, and then come Saturday, Sunday, Sunday 12 or whatever it is, sorry. If they play like 8 or 9 guys from Thursday, they're not really that different, but they have obviously get extra minutes in their legs from the Thursday coming into the game, and we're at home. And the last 2 games we've been at, it's been like a wrestling ring we've been playing football in, It's so tiny. We're coming down to Parkhead with all the space now.
Yeah, which is something that I think, Ange Postecoglou team's going to realise. So, yeah, it's quite a good analogy. A wrestling ring, yeah. I'm quite up for that. I like that. But, going back to kill at the weekend, obviously we'll probably go into Hearts a wee bit more in depth. It's going to be a good challenge. I think the weekend with the Jambos, but a start to the season, we're scoring for fun. 5 at at Rugby Park, 3 up in Dingwall, 2 against Aberdeen. I even think at this point in the season, Quinny, as we're kind of looking at where we're at, you're going to see an improvement in the Celtic team from what we watched at home against Aberdeen on opening day to 4
Yep.
games into the season, and I think they are improving game by game. What was your thoughts on that?
I would definitely agree. And one thing I was actually wanting to talk to you about when we were coming into today is the whole Maeda Abada situation from the Kilmarnock game. Really, like almost every man and their dog. It felt like thought Abada was nailed on to start, and it was a surprising shock that the manager stuck with the guy that he wanted to buy first when he came to the club. And the results. Maeda did it fantastically, and I think he'll continue to play this weekend. But I was wanting to ask, what was your thoughts on the whole Abada Maeda stuff from Kilmarnock? Were you surprised, or what was your kind of take on it all?
Yeah, well, heading down to the game, I fully expected to probably see Lila Abada be included in the team sheet after scoring at Dingwall the previous week. Obviously, cracking goal, whatnot. Although in a way that we know how important a player Maeda is for Ange Postecoglou. He's had him at Yokohama. These players that he's brought over here, he knows all about him. And I actually think, Sunday shut a lot of people up. I was at one for saying, drop Maeda, drop Maeda. There seems to be a myth, developing about his ability and what else not. But I think his role in the system's really, really important to Ange Postecoglou. He's seeing that as a bigger factor in his selection for him. Lila Bada coming on and scoring a goal isn't going to do too much to dismay Ange Postecoglou, I think, from picking Maeda
Yeah.
at all. And I think it's quite nice that he's got that, there's a consistency in the front three, and chances will come for Lila Bada, Giacomakis, whatnot, who we'll probably go on to talk to later on. But to throw that back to you, do you think that is the manager's thinking on this, that Maeda's more important than the system that he wants to play just now, and that's why he's persisting with him over Lila Bada?
Well, yeah, that was kind of my thoughts going into the game. Is like when you do look at the fixture run that we've got, basically up to the Rangers game on what is it, it's like beginning of September or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's
The
the
manager,
first or something, the 2nd of September.
yeah, the manager will definitely be, in my opinion, anyway, from the Aberdeen game, be thinking about having the team optimised to be able to, obviously win Rangers, and then after that, of course, we've got Europe because that all starts in September as well. So Maeda, Kyogo, and Jota being like, I think we said this last time we were chatting, but then getting on that kind of telepathic wavelength with each other is definitely one of the manager's priorities for this spell of the season, and Giacomakis and Abada will get minutes as they come, throughout the season anyway, because we will rotate, we will drop and rest people will get suspended and injured. But I think the manager is definitely going to grasp with both hands the opportunity. All 3 are totally fit. There's nothing wrong with any of them in terms of niggles or, this guy's played, this guy's flew to Japan yesterday and all that stuff. And it's like, so what I was saying with Jens, actually, I did a predicted 11 on my own channel, is that these minutes are high value minutes for the squad, because when we get to February, there's a Will Ferrell movie, I don't know if you've seen it, right? But I always think about this when it comes to this kind of thing with coaching. There's a Will Ferrell movie called Semi-Pro, it's about basketball. I don't know if you've seen it.
Okay, I've never seen it.
No, it's really funny, right? Woody Harrelson, the guy from Outcast, is in it and whatever. But anyway, they play that. It's a comedy. It's really funny. But they're doing this training sequence, and Woody Harrelson's calling it the puke, and it's this move they do in basketball, and it's just like a play, pass here, run there, with all 5 of them. And the idea is that they do it until they puke, and then it's like muscle memory that they can just do it even in the last second of the last game. That's the whole kind of philosophy behind it. Anyway, I think that's what we're getting with some of these components to the team, is that those high value minutes that when we get to February and it's the 90th minute away in Ross County again or something, or we're in April and we're at Ibrox or, whatever it might be, that the guys, all the work that they've done now, that's when the big payoff for all that really comes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that was something as well that Hamish over on 67 Hill had asked Ange Postecoglou recently. No, actually, it wasn't. It was Matt O'Reilly was talking about it. Was that kind of belief in yourself and your game that you're already being taught that, Kilmarnock compared to Dingwall, completely different. Your 84 minutes, you're searching for the goal. But I think the Celtic squad, and even now the support, is growing in the confidence that it will come constantly. And that's probably, the point that you're at. So I think, as you're saying there, that kind of muscle memory or whatever you want to can kind of compare it to, is probably there within that Celtic squad. And all the attackers are going to get their chance. By the looks of it, we'll touch on transfer rumours and stuff. There may be another attacker coming in there to give you another option. So I think another kind of thing just kind of closing Maeda and Abada is there's a really good interchangeability between Maeda and Jota that the manager likes to do. Both can play on either side. If he wants to play Jota on the left and Maeda off the right, he does it, or vice versa. That's something I've not seen too much with Labada yet, and maybe
Yeah.
that'll come in his game because we've only really seen him naturally on the right hand side, haven't we?
Yeah, I think Abada's main versatility is right or central. I think we've seen Ange play him central a few times when everyone was injured or away on international duty and all that stuff. When Juranovic was right wing, I think Abada was through the middle on that day.
Yep.
I forget what game that was, but
I think it was Ross County away, actually.
Oh, really? I didn't want to say that because I
Yeah.
just thought it was in my head. But
Because Abada scored, sure. Remember Abada scored the first goal?
Yep. Yeah. But I think you're right. On the left, I don't think we've seen him there. I don't think if we have, it's been so short and the manager's probably made his mind up. But with the, I don't know if you want to get into it since you brought it up, but that Sead Haksabanovic guy that we've been linked to, I did a wee bit of digging about on him just before coming on because I knew we were going to chat about him. And he seems to be like an attacking kind of winger type guy, but in terms of all the scout pages are saying. But when I kind of go back and look at what he was doing for Rubin Kazan, like when he was last playing for them before all the stuff happened and whatever, he was actually a centre mid, and he was, centre mid in a kind of 4-1-4, so with the other guys that were in that team, like, I can't pronounce his name, it's a Georgian land, begins with a K, he's just signed for Napoli, and there's another guy, Andres Dreyer, who's left and went to, anyway, it doesn't matter. But so this guy's very versatile across all those kind of attacking forward positions. I think a lot of the scout pages and stuff I've seen, saying like you might be a Jota backup kind of guy or whatever. But this guy feels maybe a wee bit more, it could be in the mold of, he can play in, we're talking about versatility and whatever, he can maybe play central as well. And when I look at the big games that he played last year, he was very effective against the big teams in Russia, like Zenit, especially away from home. The Moscow teams away from home, these are always the tough fixtures for teams like Kazan. And, from centre attacking midfield, from left wing, he's creating chances and getting in the box against all the best teams in that league. And I know a lot of people won't really hold the Russian league in high regard. I watched a fair bit of it because coming back from lockdown, it was the first league that allowed fans in. And you could watch all the stuff on YouTube if you paid like £2 a month or whatever. So it was quite good fun. And anyway, everyone was quite happy to accept Jordan Larsson into the club from his record at Spartak Moscow. And this guy's credentials are, and so I was a big fan of Jordan Larsson at Moscow. I thought he was great, but this guy isn't really too far off the same kind of level in terms of what he produced over there. So I think that could be a great signing that could actually really push the first team even harder.
It's an interesting one as well, because I was reading some of the comments from Rubin Kazan's CEO, and obviously with the sanctions that have been placed on Russian clubs ever since the invasion of Ukraine, financially, they do need money now, and it looks as if the player is wanting out the club, so he is likely to depart at some point this summer. The only thing that's possibly maybe holding up Quinny is going to be the price tag. I imagine Celtic at this point in time have the budget set well in advance of the window. I think we've already touched on before, recruitment so far in this window looks to have been pretty much spot on once again. I've still to see guys that, I've not seen Aaron Moyart yet, but I think he's going to come good for Celtic. And when we were looking at the bigger picture of it, I thought at this point Celtic would probably be in the market to look at loan deals, possible options to buy, whereas the winger from Rubin Kazan, Haksabanovic, you're possibly looking at, a £46 million price tag on him, which I don't know if Celtic have got scope for now. Listen, probably they do, but whether it's been set in the budget is another question, and that maybe flips back onto the question I'd asked you. Could ask you, in that if we see guys like Rimpong or Dembele move, who have both got sell-on fees, do you think that makes a bit of cash could then just fire right into Ange Postecoglou's budget?
Big time. And I think Frimpong is a really interesting name to bring up because, again, I watched a lot of Leverkusen over the last 2 years, and Frimpong is like easily, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Celtic fan, Frimpong is easily one of the best right backs in world football now in terms of that modern attacking right back that all the big elite teams want. And he could easily, he's been linked to some nice tasty transfers over the last week or two now that he's been back on the pitch because he did have an injury over the off-season. And yeah, man, I would not be surprised to see Frimpong go to somebody for 50, 60 mil. Like, I wouldn't really knock me off my seat or anything. And we're definitely on for a wee cut of that. So getting Haksabanovic money from that is definitely possible for sure.
Yeah, but listen, I think if it's a player that Ange Postecoglou signs, even though I touched it on budgets that I imagine are set at the club, I think just now there's been a lesson in that, the board are listening to Ange, whatever player he wants to get. You see how quickly Michael Nicholson and the scouting department worked in January to get the players in the door that we needed then. And if it's a deal that I think the manager wants to happen, it likely will happen. So you can probably, talk all we like about budgets and how much Celtic had to spend in this window. It probably is there if we want to bring him in. So yeah, it's an interesting one to keep eyes on.
See, the
It's
last thing I would say on
certainly,
that guy. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you. I just thought we were going to move past it. Just before we go away from that guy, I was thinking when I was saying about him earlier on, he's actually like, when you look at his profile and whatever, he's actually like almost a doppelganger for that Alex Collado, the Barcelona guy we were linked to. You
yep,
know, so and that's kind of what I did it really terribly the first time around. But that's what I was trying to say, that his kind of versatility, he can almost be an inside attacking player as well as an outside attacking player. And sometimes I think the manager maybe convinced the club sometimes spending 4 million on a guy that plays two positions is actually getting two £2 million players almost. Maybe that's a wee bit of the mental
right up
gymnastics he's
Celtic
playing.
Street.
Aye.
It's right up Celtic Street. But it also feeds in it. I listened to Sports Sound the way home from Kilmarnock in the car, and Ange said on it, we are probably looking at people to round off our squad. I still think if we can find a player or two, or as you say, maybe Quinny, a player who can play two positions, who play more than one position in the way we play, I think that will help us. It's not in terms of his specific area, it's someone who will fit in with the group as well. We have a strong mentality within this group of players, and anyone coming in has to have that as well. That was what he said after the game. So, yeah, I think that kind of touches bang on to what you're saying there about versatility in the squad, and I think that's going to be something he looks at. That I think now, if you look throughout the Celtic team, maybe apart people will say in terms of midfielders, just due to losing Beaton and Rogic, you're practically covered
Yeah.
two players a position. So anything you're probably adding in now is just to add greater bulk to the squad, really, isn't it? It's not in terms of looking at, but we'll take right back, for instance, which is probably one of our strongest areas in the department. We've got Juranovic and Ralston. It's not a case of looking there and going, let's bring in another one. If you were probably bringing in another one, it's just to add a bit of depth to the squad and probably looking at moving whether the person that came in there in the middle of the park or whatnot. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing as well with football over the last 10 years as well, is like formations, like, see, as soon as the first whistle goes, they kind of go out the window a little bit. And you really notice that with a team with Celtic. We were chatting before about like when Taylor has played his best minutes, he's not really, you don't recognise him as a left back, like geographically on the pitch. It's just not where he is. And with like Jota, Kyogo, Maeda, as soon as we get into the attacking positions, like formation kind of goes out the window, and it's about setting up a situation and creating space in a repetitive way, run here, fake the run there, play the ball over here, then, that kind of stuff. And guys that are able to play a lot of positions are guys that just always thrive in really good teams like that, because they're switched on and they can, even if they find themselves in right back for some reason and they're maybe a centre mid, they can stay there for a minute, make sure nobody goes by them, get the ball back, control possession and wait for a smart time to get back to an effective part of the pitch. And I think that's where we're really starting to see with the front three and the midfield as well, because McGregor, as much as we're dying for a hard man defensive mid, but McGregor, Rio and O'Reilly, all three of them can all kind of, when the game's playing, they can
Alter,
all kind of,
rotate.
yeah. And it's
And
madness to
cover the
mark.
spaces that you need to be covered. It's terrible to mark you, but if you were a opposition midfielder, you must hate it. I mean, I describe Callum McGregor as Celtic's metronome. He makes everything tick in there, and he
Yep.
can do both parts of the game.
Phenomenally, yeah. So, and again, as we're talking there, I've seen Football Scotland has just tweeted out that the Ruben Kazan chief has given his blessing for this transfer. So, we've just spoke it into reality. But
Well, listen, but we'll see how it progresses. But obviously, he's got a bit of experience of doing deals with Celtic before with Carl Starfelt.
yep.
They weren't at the club together, but I'd imagine if he's had positive talks before, I can also kind of add into where you're at with deals like this. So, yep, want to keep an eye on that. But that was a perfect lead into Greg Taylor. And as you say, geographically on the park, you probably don't know him as a left back. Probably didn't notice him as a left back when he played that ball to Dyson Maeda, and it was the
Yeah.
perfect kind of example of Ange Postecoglou's football and Greg Taylor thriving in Ange Postecoglou's football.
Yeah, and like Taylor's one of these guys. Like as a coach, like is an absolute dream. Just like not. Sometimes these words might sound derogatory or whatever, but he is like obedient. He is like just like he'll just do as he's told. He might not like he's not one of these guys that's going to think, oh, I know better than you, or when they're on the ball, just do you know what? I can see a world day pass, and we're just going to try and play for the hell of it. He's just like super switched on, super obedient, and just like does everything that he's told. And because of the position he plays and then the role that he comes into in the centre of the park, like it's just a joy to behold. It's really rewriting the position in a lot of ways under this this philosophy that we're running with,
Yeah, and it's something that, I think at the start people were going, what's inverted fullbacks? Yeah, that seems all well and good. And, Pep Guardiola plays it, but can other players cope with it? But, Juranovic and Taylor at the weekend were absolutely phenomenal doing it. And as I say, the opening goal was fantastic. I know Derek McKinnon spoke about players being switched on and all that, but the ball from Taylor, maybe the pitch helps him a wee bit. The ball into Maeda, Kyogo's run, that's very, very hard for any team, I think, to deal with. The way we just completely split open that Kilmarnock defence.
Yeah, and that's that and that's what we get with like this style of football because when Taylor's coming into that job in midfield, like we were mentioning a moment ago, like at the weekend it was Turnbull, O'Reilly, and McGregor. As soon as Taylor then like comes in, it pushes the pressure on that midfield to get further 5 or 10 yards. And you can talk about sticking to your man and switching on and all the rest of it, but when there's so much happening so quickly, and you know that Celtic are not going to misplace a pass, the first touches are not going to be terrible, then as a defending team, like it is a real hurricane of what's going on. It's a real nightmare. And that's why we get frustrated sometimes. But actually, Kilmarnock did try and play against us. But we do sometimes get frustrated. Like they'll just sit in and they'll just want to head everything clear because that's kind of all they can guarantee they can do. But that's just because we're imposing, that kind of play. And it's funny because, like you say, the Guardiolas and whatever, it's funny because sometimes we don't think this European style of football will work in the SPL when we sign like a Jota, like, oh, will he hack it? Or, these kind of, originally. But it does, football's football. And it's all about a unified kind of focus on this is the direction, this is the game plan, and we're all doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hopefully many more performances like that. But we see it, it come to roost. You said earlier about first touches in that Celtic team not always being always spot on, but I think Jota's first touch of the weekend before he hit that absolute ripper is probably the kind of perfect touch, and I think he thought he saw it, he hit this, but McInnes can play in the goal all he wants. It's a great start, it's another cracking goal from him. Just a quick word on him. Do you think Harry Kewell's probably had a wee word in his ear? Because it was certainly something we never seen in Jota's armoury last season.
Very interesting. I can definitely see that for sure because Q's been brought in as the attacking coach, and I actually forgot all about that. To be honest with you, that's really interesting because Harry Q did have that. He was more on the right, kind of cutting in on his left, but that goal Jota scored is you could imagine Harry Q setting him up for a session like that, because that's his bag. That's a great spot.
Yeah, and the two of them had a wee word with each other after the game, so I don't know if that was Harry Q, having a wee nudge, who taught you that, sir? But hopefully many more of them.
Nice.
So that's that. I think where we can start kind of moving into this game is the centre half debacle, and that kind of comes from the Kilmarnock game. Nobody's going to shift Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's called the fridge for a reason. He ain't shifting outside that Celtic defence. But who the hell plays beside him? Stephen Welsh was actually in the Chadwick stand beside me at the game, just a couple of rows down. So I think he's going to return for the weekend. You've got Carl Starfelt coming in, who'll be absolutely buzzing after getting his first goal, which was nice to see. And it's 2-2 for Moritz Jensen, and hopefully the wee knock, whatever it was he picked up, he's okay. So the first question I need to ask you is, who does Ange put beside Cameron Carter-Vickers at the weekend?
Well, it was the most asked question. We put a tweet out. So if anyone for next week or whatever, if there's any questions you want to ask, just check out the Celtic here on Twitter. Just drop the questions in. But that was the main question everyone was asking. Who's playing centre-back? To kind of go back to what I said earlier on about high-value minutes, I think Jens keeps his place if he's fit. If this knock isn't anything... and I know we've seen Welsh drop out on an illness, and, illnesses can be of different, obviously, strengths and whatever, but after the performances he had. It felt like an easy in for somebody to get their minutes. Oh, you're ill. Well, this guy's totally fit. Let's have him in, kind of idea. And maybe that might be the case for Starfelt. Jens has came off. He's got a wee knock. If he's not 100%, the manager will probably just say, nah, it's not, Starfelt's in now. So if he's 100%, I think Jens will get the Hearts game. And then Starfelt will be reintroduced to the squad, I would think. But if Jens is 98%, I think the manager goes with Starfelt in that sense.
Yeah, something I found interesting was upon kind of Carl Starfelt's return to the team, obviously we're going to have these bounce games that he's probably been getting some minutes in because he missed out in the whole pre-season. But in terms of Carl Starfelt, really strong partnership with CCV last season, big part of Celtic's success. But coming in and getting a goal, back to what I said about Abad earlier on, I think the manager, calls him like flow moments or something, but it was what he described him as. That was what Jota described him as. And just kind of having a big moment in a game, I don't think it's going to merit your place in the Celtic team. It's probably why I'd agree with you. If Moritz Shentz looks strong enough, Starfelt wouldn't have got his chance to go on and score had Shentz not went off. I probably agree with you, and that Moritz Shentz is going to be handed his Celtic Park competitive debut.
Yeah, because again, like it's one of these things that Starfelt's had like 30, 35 games or whatever with Carter Vickers. Jens has had 2 at this point. So I think the manager would definitely, again, similar to the front three, sees the opportunity to get them a wee bit better acquainted. He's had 2 away games, which are very difficult. But now a home game against a top 6 side is another situation to see Jens in with Carter Vickers, with the goalkeeper that he's not had an opportunity to have yet. And again, I think the manager would just see it as a great opportunity to have that growth, have that experience to then, cash in later in the year kind of thing, even though Starfelt is probably the number 1 pairing at this point, but
yeah,
it's high value
and
minutes.
again, like the attackers, opportunities will come for these guys eventually down the line, and I think they'll know that. It's good that you've got competition in there. But what I was going to say about Starfelt was, I expect him to be reintroduced and I try and build him up towards that Rangers game.
Yeah,
But
same.
at this point in time, I'd imagine he starts against Hearts, barring any disaster or anything. He might change one of the pairing or both in the cup game against Ross County, because I think if you pick any 4 of them, they should be absolutely fine in Dingwall. But I remember looking at that game at Tannadice, you'd have probably thought whoever maybe plays Hearts as a pairing will play Tannadice, and then we'll play Rangers. I'm getting that mixed round. It's Tannadice, then Ross County, then Rangers. But going into the game, I don't think there's going to be too much of a rush to bring Carl Starfelt back into that defence, which I think says more about Moritz Shentz than it probably does about Carl Starfelt this time. It's just unfortunate through the injury in June that both have been handed their opportunity, and Moritz Shentz, 2 goals in 2 games for a defender. You can't say better than that.
No, definitely not. And I think what you've touched on there is exactly the kind of thinking is like, if Jens didn't get injured, Starfelt doesn't come on, at the weekend. Obviously, it's but like I say, I think he wants Starfelt to play Rangers. So I think the manager's idea before anything happens to Jens on the weekend gone, maybe affects him for this weekend coming, is he starts Starfelt at Dundee United, he starts Starfelt at Ross County, and then he comes in at Rangers and he's totally like up to speed kind of idea. That's what I would have thought. But like I said, if Jens is 98%, then I think Starfelt comes in now for the run-up.
That's interesting. I'm going to disagree in that one. I'm going to say that barring any disaster or any howlers, I think Yates is keeping that place in there right through the Rangers game.
Oh, really?
And that's going to be the pairing just now. I just
I'd love
don't
to see
see.
it. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I just don't see the minutes coming for Carl Starfelt. Just unfortunate for him at this point in time. And that was kind of the point I was referring to there. I would expect him to be introduced at a point, but I don't think he's, as I say earlier on, around Abada, I think it's the exact same situation. If he's quite comfortable with those 2 playing at this point in time, I can see that going right through until that Rangers game. But listen, we don't know what's happened. There could be an injury, etc. But to me, any disasters, I think it's going to be Jens and CCV right through until that first derby. But we'll see. Always
I'd
good
love
to
to
have
see
a
that.
healthy debate. But again, the manager knows best. I think if he picked any of the 4 defenders, including Stephen Welsh, by the way, we'd all be quite happy with whatever pair he chooses. So we'll just wait and see. Moving on from that, I think we're still in this transfer window. It's important to touch on a few of these ones. We got a Fabrizio Romano update the other day on Georgios Giakoumakis, who was described as untouchable. I certainly wouldn't be selling Giakoumakis in the hope that Albion Ajeti, no matter what any stats say, has the same sort of output as him.
No, I definitely agree with that for sure. It's really difficult because, like, on like Moneyball and all this kind of stuff, like Giakoumakis is a great person to sell this season. You know, we've only had him for 2 minutes. We didn't really pay anything for him, and if somebody wants to pay us a lot of money for him, he's not even in the best 11 at this point in time. You know, technically, if you look at the last couple of matches. So on paper, it would make absolute logical sense, but it's what, you know, if you did sell him, you get a big bucket of cash. Who do you go and buy? Do they work out? Blah blah blah. You know, all the unknown quantities then come into it. And in this situation, for me, you're better with what you've got. I'd rather just keep him. He's worth more than the money, and I think that's kind of comes into that untouchable status. It's like it's not worth moving on. It's such a unnecessary thing we don't want to deal with in terms of replacing him and, you know, all the rest of it.
Yeah,
That's kind of me.
absolutely. Because you don't know how it could work out. You know, and there was probably questions even asked about him after he missed that penalty against Livingston, if you remember, way
Yeah.
back to then. And this was a guy who was his top goal scorer in Eredivisie, and as you touched on earlier, a very good standard. We saw PSV the other night. We know what teams like Ajax and Feyenoord are like too. So to do that in the league, as well respected and as decent as that, says a lot about him. But I totally agree with you, Quinny, and the point that, you know, he's probably worth more than the money at this point to Celtic.
Yeah.
And if you did take whatever it would be from a Premier League side, you just don't know how it's going to work out, do you? For instance, you've seen the chaos ensue at Manchester United, who have went from striker to striker to striker. Not had one that's really stuck. Spent millions on them. So
If
I
Man
think
United want to spend 30 million on him, then I think they say no bother.
no, no.
I take 30
I would
million, no
still
bother.
no. I would still be saying no. I would still be saying no,
Really?
because I just think at this point in time, back to what Ange Postecoglou spoke about, that analogy of building a perfect house. You know, you don't want
Sure.
to continue to build a house and sell the roof, or, you know, knock down one of the bedrooms. So at this point in time, the house is getting untouched. I'm sure Celtic are planning well ahead, because there is a lot of assets in there who I'm sure will eventually head out the door. But I'm one for definitely keeping Giakoumakis like I am for every other player in there. We've already touched on Haksabanovic. It's one
Yep.
to keep our eyes on. I don't think we probably need to go any more over him. But probably another thing to come back that will link in with that is going to be wages. You touched on that name, Jordan Larson, earlier. I think that
Yep.
was probably one of the stumbling blocks. Obviously, we've seen him go to Schalke in
Yep.
Bundesliga, newly promoted Schalke. And Schalke seem to actually been a wee bit of a Celtic circle here, because one guy who I think we're talking about probably every week up until the transfer window shuts, and it'll be the same the next transfer window, is Chris Julian. And the importance probably of moving him on, and possibly Albion Yeti, and then another of the big earners, because I think at this point, Quinny, as well, the budget for players is also going to be dictated around wages. And if Haksabanovic comes in for a decent fee, he's probably going to be looking for a decent wage. And to probably do that, you're likely to have to move on, whether it be, you know, one of the
Yeah. One
the
of those
latter
earners.
mentioned, Julian or a Yeti or whoever else. So would you agree with that? That it's important to probably get some of the big spenders out the door as it is to maybe bring in somebody?
Yeah, I think Julian's maybe the most likely to leave because he's still got a bit of a profile on, like, you know, kind of lower end French football, and obviously like Schalke, newly promoted Bundesliga team. So it's basically the Bundesliga 2 market, if you like, you know, are aware of him and would be interested in him to some extent if that was the approaches we had. But a Yeti, like, I don't see him on anyone's radar. Like, who would want a Yeti? He's really only going to go back to Switzerland, doesn't he? Or, you know, some kind of lower end league like that, maybe
He
Denmark or
definitely
Sweden or
ain't
something.
heading back to the Premier League. Put it
He's not
that
heading
way.
back to the Prem, yeah. And for the money he's on, I don't see any team in Italy or Spain or whatever even looking at him. So it's one of those ones where he's just not got much of a market. So I think we're kind of unfortunately going to have to bite the bullet on him at some point, similar to maybe Bolingoli. That kind of ordeal panned out longer than many of us wanted. But I think Julian, you know, he's just going to hold out for as much as possible because we're paying him well. We spent a lot of money on him. He's a big guy. He was a big guy at our team, you know. So Turkey, bottom end of Germany or something like that, bottom end of France, he's got people that will probably come in for him, you know.
Yeah, and Albin Ayeti. If Celtic can shift Vasilis Barkas out the door, I'm sure to God they can just shift Albin Ayeti, but they won't recoup anywhere near that money.
Did you see Barkas at the weekend?
Yes,
Mate,
yeah.
Barkas was one of the best goalkeepers. What was he? Second best goalkeeper score in the world at the weekend. 88 points. The guy bagged in. And that's how many saves did he make? 10 saves, 2 diving saves, 5 inside the box. He punched it one time. He actually made a successful punch, clearance from the box. And a few
That's about
passes
his
and
whole
stuff as well.
Celtic. That's about his whole Celtic career, probably encapsulated. Except it's probably not diving to actually save to save the ball. But
Couldn't believe it when I
yeah, I
seen it.
think if we can get guys like that out the door, surely we can get guys like Ayeti out, who I even think could possibly, Turkey, you've already mentioned there, could
Yeah,
be
maybe
one.
Turkey.
On Haksabanovic possibly coming in, do you think that maybe leaves a space for Mikey Johnson to maybe go out and loan somewhere else? Because you're probably looking then, you've got Kyogo, Giacomakis as your two strikers, and you've got these winger options of Jota, Maeda, and Abada. James Forrest is obviously in that bumper deal. He ain't going anywhere.
No.
That's 6 players who are likely to start in front of Mikey Johnson. He's not even on the bench, I don't think, at the weekend, was he? Forrest came on. Can't remember seeing Johnson's name on the bench. So, and if Haksabanovic comes in, it's basically 7 players in front of him. And I think for his own sake, he needs minutes at this point in time in his career.
Big time. I had to just go and check there. I think he had a strong link to, I think it was Belgium on loan about a fortnight ago or something. That does seem to have vanished, but he's still our player for sure. But yeah, I think we're trying to get him out on loan at some point. I think the manager kind of likes him, but he's just so far down the pecking order that you are kind of. I can't remember what it was. Somebody tweeted something and it was talking about Celtic and transfer links and whatever the players. And it was a picture of like Jota, Kyogo, Juranovic, and O'Reilly or something like that. And I retweeted it saying there's 100 million quid in this photo, so I think like maybe over the next like 2 or 3 years, like when guys are sold on and whatever, I think the manager maybe sees guys like Mikey Johnson maybe still being around, and if they are still around, then they could be useful, if nothing else, at different points. So I don't think with some guys like that he likes, he'll just cut them off, like maybe like Julian, for example, and just say, get out of here. He'll maybe try. Yeah, I think it's like, yeah, let's try and loan him out. Let's try and keep him kind of connected somehow. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
that's
that's a
similar.
I think that's a fair point to actually make on that, because as we were touching on earlier, with Georgi Shakimakis, I'm sure there will be planning already in place down the line. You seen that in January, arguably, that Ange probably knew at that point the discussion had maybe taken place with Beaton and Rogic that they were going to depart the club. You bring in
Yep.
Matt O'Reilly, who's a carbon copy player, and is probably going to go for big bucks. And you bring in Yusuke Adeguchi, who's been unfortunate with injuries just now, but you are imagining he's going to, whenever he returns from injury, be the kind of number 6 backup in there. Obviously, you've still got James McCarthy at the club too, who we never mentioned in the big
Yeah.
earners. But I think something that might sway him staying at the club might be that Celtic got him in a free, and even though his wages are likely to be very, very healthy, I think for James McCarthy, it's different for him compared to Julian and Ayeti. And he's a Celtic fan. It was probably his dream move, and he's probably happy to be a part of the squad at this point in time. So he's one to possibly keep an eye on. Obviously, he's had his links with Sunderland because of his time at Hamilton with Alec Neil as a kid, and before he's moved down to the Prem. But
Of course.
going back, on what we were talking about with Yakimakis earlier on, that I'm trying to lose my train of thought here.
That's really fine.
I'm saying all these names. I'm trying to think of where I was going with it there. That for Mikey Johnson, that's what I was saying.
Like the
For
forward
Mikey
planning.
Johnson, there needs to be forward planning, and the manager's probably not had too great a chance to get a good look at him for a run of games. I think that's something that Mikey probably definitely needs in his career, is a run of football matches. And listen, you see what happened with Jack Kennedy out in Belgium for that period of time. I know he's
Yep.
possibly on the move again. I think get a look at him and think, as you say, Quinny, that there's a player in there. You've still got him in your books, you can bring him back, and you don't know what could happen in a couple of years' time. So I think that probably will feed in to what you're saying there, but you definitely agree with that for maybe some of the other guys that are out on loan that, you know, that the manager wants to just get them connected to the club because there might be that possible avenue to come back and make your impact at Celtic eventually.
Yeah, totally. I think the other guy that we put out on loan to Belgium, was Huragidi. I can't say his name.
Urigidi's over in Ostend, yes.
Yeah, he's started life off pretty well over there. Wow, he scored 100 points one week against. Wow, he scored 100 point. He got a 100-point game against Anderlecht, and they beat 3-0. He got a goal line clearance, and he absolutely bossed it with clearances and passing or whatever. So yeah, he's doing pretty well in Belgium. And again, like forward planning, this guy, if he plays, and he is playing every game for Ostend at the moment, then that's a development that we can't offer someday in the B team or just by sitting on the bench and whatever. So by having guys like Urugidi, maybe Johnson, and then maybe there's one or two others that we've not mentioned.
I think Montgomery's one, by the way.
Montgomery, yeah, he's out on loan. And Dane Murray, or is he injured? And there's somebody else.
Dane Murray's still at the club at this point in time. I think he's got an injury.
Liam Scales.
Montgomery. Liam Scales is another one. Yep.
And so I think this little kind of loan battalion is maybe just like it's definitely got the potential to maybe serve as a get. And it might even just be, like you said, with Jack Hendry, we put him on loan and we've learned our lesson from Jack Hendry because we loaned him out to, I think it was Ostend as well, done great. And we had a really crappy buy clause on it for Jack Hendry in the grand scheme of things. So I think we got like 1.2 million or something. And then instantly they sold him to Bruges for like 4 million or something. And, and we just get totally squeezed out of it. So we've probably learned our lesson in that respect. And we won't be putting crappy little buy clauses on these guys. And maybe we put them on loan, they come back to us, and then we sell them to Bruges for 4 million or whatever, rather than getting done off Ostend.
That could be the potential thinking in it. But yeah, I think that's an interesting one in terms of loan players that some might get their chance to come back and step up and do their bit, because I think it's been interesting where Skills has been playing for Aberdeen too. And that planning, I'm sure, as well, and Ange Postecoglou's psyche, where he maybe sees Celtic in a year's time. You know, I think he's constantly looking forward. He's someone who prepares teams well. He's someone who manages a squad very, very well. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's an interesting one to keep your eye on. In terms of other departures, I think I've pretty much covered everything there. What I was going to say about Urigidi, he's an interesting one, in that I think Ostend weren't for paying up the money there, and that's why he's went back on loan. But it'd be an interesting one if he flourishes like that. Celtic might be looking at it and thinking, we'll take you back and either sell you instead of having a middleman in between it, or possibly there might be a future, we don't know. Want to keep our eyes on, definitely. Champions League draw, less than a week away when this goes out. I'm very, very excited about this because Celtic's not been in the Champions League for so long. The last time before we heard that tune against Motherwell in Trophy Day was Anderlecht, who you just mentioned, in December 2017. We had that Champions League tune, which is crazy to think about.
I think I was at that game.
What is your 1-0 we get beat, I think. What is your take on this, Quinny? Cal McGregor already said he wants the big boys. He's double downed in wanting Real Madrid. Personally, I want Real Madrid because we've never played them before. But we're back at the top dining table. Are you wanting to dine with the big boys, or would you rather a kind of easier path in?
I think the main problem
getting past European football past Christmas.
Yeah, I would love Real Madrid as well, but my brain can't. I can't let us get Real Madrid in any potential draw, because then we can't get like Seville or Villarreal or somebody a bit easier. Because I think actually some of the Spanish teams we could actually do pretty well against. Like we did okay against Betis last year, for example. You know, we weren't exactly blown out of the water by them. But yeah, I'm the same as every Celtic fan that's kind of been going to games throughout this, since the millennium, basically. Is we've had all the greats. That's it. The way the song goes. All the football greats have passed through Parkhead's gates, except for Real Madrid over the last, I know it's been much longer, but in my lifetime, it's just not happened at all. So I think, sentimentally, I think we all want to go to the Bernabeu. We all want to see Real Madrid show up at Parkhead and show them what it's all about, But I say my brain just can't. I really want Sevilla at pot two. I really, really, really want Sevilla at pot two.
Yeah, just to kind of run through the potential options for our listeners. Pot one, we've got the reigning European champions, Real Madrid, and it appears my neighbours started drilling. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. On track, Frankfurt, who we know very well, Manchester City, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, PSG, Porto, and Ajax in pot one. Pot 2, Liverpool, Chelsea, Barcelona, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Leipzig, Sevilla and Spurs. Pot 3, Borussia Dortmund, Shakhtar Donetsk, Inter Milan, Red Bull Salzburg, Napoli, Sporting Lisbon, Bayer Leverkusen. There's still a team to be confirmed in that pot with qualifying, and obviously we're in pot 4. What is your best case scenario, Quinny, and your worst case scenario for those teams that I've run you through?
I want Seville at pot 2, and then I want any Portuguese team, and then I don't really. And then
Porto from pot 1 then.
Porto from pot 1's ideal. I think Lisbon from 3 would be fine, or whatever Lisbon's pot was, they would be okay because they've sold a lot.
Pot 3.
Yeah.
So
Lisbon or Porto, they've sold
there,
like mad this summer. They've sold like mad. They're not the same teams as they were last year, you know.
So you're going for Porto in pot 1?
Yeah.
Sevilla pot 2. Who's your pot 3 team? Because obviously you've already said one Portuguese team.
I would maybe take
giving Leverkusen another shot.
Yeah, I'd maybe take another shot at Leverkusen. Because they won't have Wirtz. He's out injured, and I'd probably take Leverkusen. They're a fair shout. Leverkusen, why not? I wouldn't mind a decent team, like one that we can have a bit of glamour with, but in terms of the ones that I think our best chance of getting, 6 points at home and maybe 3 or 4 points away, Seville and a Portuguese team, I think that's our best. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think for me, if I was probably saying an easiest route, I'd be going to try at Frankfurt. I'd like to play Spurs so we get an English team in there. Sporting Lisbon would be a cracking trip too, so possibly easiest route. Dream route, Real Madrid, or probably nightmare is going to be Real Madrid, Liverpool and Dortmund, which, is enough to keep you up at night, never mind Horlicks or hot chocolate. So those are the big 3 that you can look at. And then even apart from that, your Man Cities, you've got PSG in there, Chelsea will be very difficult, Atletico, Napoli, but it's one to get excited about. And even if it is Real Madrid, Liverpool and Dortmund, they're going to be special occasions no matter who they are. But
definitely will be.
That might be too far a stretch to try and get the old European football after Christmas or the last 16 shot. But we'll see. So are you saying easier ties over glamour?
I want a middle road. Yeah, I definitely want. I want us to be. I want the group stage draw to happen, and I want there to be a real. Do you know what? We can think about trying to get 9 points at home. Like I want that to be on the plate. As long as that's there, I'll be quite content with the draw. We always want glamour because it's Champions League, and you don't want to qualify out of a group that's full of gimmies. I don't think there is many gimmies in the group, but I fancy Seville just because I think they're going in a bit of turmoil now. And the Portuguese teams have been selling like mad this summer window, so I just think they're there for us, but you do want a team like take maybe throw in a Napoli or a Real Madrid, or depending on the pot. So Real Madrid from pot 1, Lisbon from pot 3, and Seville. Oh no, we couldn't have Seville if we've got Madrid. That's why I can't. That's why I can't get Real Madrid out. Because I just need in my head that we get Seville. But yeah, I want to see us get out the group. I want to see us finish second. I want that to be definitely something that we're thinking about, because again, like what we're chatting about with the philosophy and everything that the managers try to drive in. Like the manager will say all the stuff in the press conferences that we expect, like, oh no, we take it one game at a time, and all the league and all the cups are just as important. But in pre-season and at this stage of the season, he's telling them Champions League's coming harder, and that's the bar that he'll be setting them all up to. So I think when we get there, the players are just going to be, primed and buzzing for it. And if we play at Celtic Park the way we have been playing, I think we can definitely get back into the situation. And I'm the quickest to get carried away, by the way. But I think we can get into the situation where...
That's allowed. We're in the Champions League. It's allowed.
We can rock up to home games and go, there, hours tonight. We're having it, And
yeah, it'd be nice to get those nights back, because I've been missed. And, those glory days are very fond, and I think every Celtic fan's mind. So it'd be great to have them back. So yeah, but why not? Second for me might be a bit too much of a tall order. I just want us to have another, crack at European football after Christmas and prove that we're much better than we were against Bodo Glimt. That was a real disappointment last season. I think if there was any disappointment in Ange's first season, it was probably Bodo over the 2 legs. So we didn't really give too great an account of ourselves. So we'll see what the draw happens. We will be covering it next week, so please do join us. I think we're doing a wee preview of the draw, due to the fact that probably after the draw I'll be on hotels.com and Skyscanner trying to get cheap flights and cheap digs. So Something you always need to balance with yourself, Euro away trips. Just to kind of finish, Quinny, Hearts at the weekend, but we've touched briefly on it. I've mentioned that Welsh is back. It looks as if Hatate will be back too. Does Hatate go right into that midfield for you, or do you keep it settled to what it already is?
Yeah, I think Atati goes right back in. I was sitting on, I was watching the Kelly game. I ended up sitting on a Twitter Spaces, just chatting about the game with some other people that were doing the commentary and whatever. It's Celtic Fans TV, and I said to them at half time, I was like, in my opinion, it looked like Turnbull was playing like a guy who knew he was getting dropped. He was snatching at everything. He wasn't playing easy balls to put people on a plate. He was trying to take shots, and I was super frustrated with him. So I think I think he knew already that he'd have to do amazing against Kilmarnock to have a shot at staying in against Hearts, and he definitely didn't do amazing against Kelly. So I think Rio is whisked back in.
Yeah, I think Hatate probably will return to the team myself too. Apart from that, though, I don't see many changes elsewhere. I think totally in agreement with yourself. We had that big chat earlier on about the defenders. I think that Angel will stick with Moritz Jenks if he's fit. You'll see him in there beside Vickers. The fullbacks ain't for changing. And the midfield, possibly Hatate coming back in. And again, with the forward three players, he's going to be sticking with that. And you'll see Giakoumakis in the game. You'll see probably Abada come on. But agree with that, Quinny, that you probably see roughly the same team as you've seen at Killie and at Ross County.
Completely agree. I think the only unknown quantity is just the Yen situation, because he did seem to be a bit tender when he came off, but the manager's comments, I remember hearing them say words that were very close to he's walking about normally. Like it's just might have just been a wee pull or a wee something, So if he's fine, I make you right. I think he keeps his spot for this week, certainly. We'll talk next week about anything beyond that, I suppose. But if there's any question, I don't think he risks him there. He'll just go, right, if Carl's ready, we'll pop him in, So that's otherwise. I think copy paste from Kilmarnock with Rio over Turnbull.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. That the good thing is, I keep going back to this, that we're only 4 games into the season, come Hearts, but we've got so many options that you're confident with whatever team you get out, that you're going to win the game, and that you've got complete faith in Ange Postecoglou to deliver results.
This is one thing I've been dying to ask you, and I missed you last week because you also had the interview with Liam, but I missed a bit of the Ross County game. I think I've missed bits of the Ross County game, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to watch it, so I didn't try and get it on his goal or whatever. But the last 15 minutes of the Ross County game, Giakoumakis and Kyogo were on the pitch together, and I've not seen anyone kind of talking about it. I kind of went through as much of the fan media as I could kind of find to try and hear anyone talking about it, and nobody really did. And at the weekend there, we seen Moyes sitting, and McGregor kind of went forward a bit more.
Went forward a bit, yep.
Yeah. So I'm hoping maybe for Hearts, we might see some of this. Number one, I want to ask you if you remember much of Kyogo and Giakoumakis in the pitch, if there was any kind of tells there. And I was just going to add into that I would like to see that again, and Moyes sitting again as the subs roll in the second half of this match. That's something I would be excited to see.
Yeah, well, it was actually, funny enough you say that, in the first game of the season, I think it might have happened to them around the park at the same kind of time. And one of the other boys from fan media who was in that day had asked the manager that question that you just asked there.
Yeah.
And Ange had a very kind of funny reply of team full of strikers. Let me have a think about that. But it might be something that you see creep in. I mean, listen, Celtic had great success playing 4-2-4 in the 60s in the European Cup final. If we went back to an old 4-2-4, maybe when we were taking games, which I think we've actually seen it, teams with a front four, that prospect for teams must be absolutely daunting at any 4 strikers going ahead from Celtic. But possibly later on in games, as I said earlier, Quinny, I think that Ross County game was a real good barometer of the belief that the players already had. The goal would come, and it was going to come. And after Jenks got the goal, it wasn't like possibly typical performances you've seen. Team chasing a goal late, that they're hanging on. We wanted to go and get more, and that might be something that when you're maybe playing with that bit of confidence, you'll see maybe Jacko and Kyogo play together. But I think for just now, from our perspective, watching Celtic week in, week out, I think the job of the 2 wingers is very, very important just now. I don't think it's something you'll see start at any point soon, but if you're maybe comfortable in a game or you're maybe chasing a goal, I certainly think it's something that might happen. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to see more and more of that stuff, because we do need to have plan Bs and plan Cs for when these different things are happening. And that was the one thing I really missed about the Ross County game, was just I didn't see, like, so what I was really interested to see was Giakoumakis and Kyogo kind of shadowing each other essentially, or did Kyogo kind of run free and deep into midfield, or did Giakoumakis do that a bit and that kind of thing? Because I think trying to understand what, for me anyway, is I'm trying to forecast lineups every week and stuff. For me, what I'm trying to understand is what would that look like in the manager's head? How do they two play together? How does that work? And because that might also help us with some other kind of stuff when we're thinking about transfers. We might be looking for, is this realistic? Could this guy actually fit in the team? Oh, well, he could if we played like we did against whatever team when this happened. All that kind of stuff. But again, Moy's an interesting one as well, because like his first couple of minute appearances, he was coming on for like O'Reilly and Rio and playing in those more attacking spots. And is actually one of the comments I picked up from Matt O'Reilly's interview that you referenced earlier, is he said that Aaron Moy's probably got the best first touch. It was one of his questions. I was going through teammates or something, and he was saying Aaron Moy's got an amazing first touch. So I think we might see that come into that deeper role. And if we can get McGregor further forward against Hearts especially, then the more kind of iterations and more kind of variations we've got on that attack will just become more and more, for lack of a better term, powerful. When we're going to, it makes it harder for people to sit in, when it is like you could just throw the kitchen sink at it and go 4-2-4, and even when we did, even if we do go like 4-2-4 in a match, as we were saying earlier, the formation doesn't really mean anything, because of that back four, two of them are fullbacks that are actually playing centre mid, and then the two centre mids that are playing attacking mid, and then the front four are actually so it's actually, it's a great strategy if we can nail it, even if it is to like kill a team in the last 10 minutes, if it's a deadlock or we're chasing a goal or something. But yeah, I'm excited to see these kind of little evolutions of Ange season 2.
Yeah, and again, the man that we spoke about earlier, Haksabanovic, might just be a perfect player for that can drop from playing the wing into midfield. And as we're on just now, there is several different Russian media outlets reporting that he will join Celtic and the fee will be below what Ruben paid for him. That's one to keep our eyes on. It's exciting news that probably will continue to develop. But as always, thanks for joining us. Next week we will be back with a Champions League preview special. Please do tune for that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can probably see our ticker tape at the bottom. If you do subscribe to the channel, there will be a chance to win monthly Celtic prizes. Make sure to do that. If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a like, and we'll catch you sometime soon. Quinny, as always, thank you for joining me.